All right, so what we're gonna do here is we've got an expedition set up. We're gonna show you an inflation technique from bottom to top. So what we've done right now is we've taken the boat and we've installed the coaming, we've installed the seat and inflated it, and we've got the back band installed. Basically, I find those things to be easier done before you begin inflation. We've also put some gear inside the hull through the cargo fly. So now we're ready to inflate the boat, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure first that that T-zip is fully secure and closed. We're gonna grab our inflation bag, and then we're gonna take a look here at this valve. So the valve opens this way, and internally it has a Backcheck valve. Here is closed, here is open. And I'll show you what that looks like on the inside of the boat as well. So when you look here, basically you can see here, this would be in open mode. It's actually not allowing that flap to close. So that's how the air purges out of the boat. If we turn it into Backcheck mode, so that air can't come back at us, we're gonna have this flap closing inside. And so as back pressure from our inflation continues to push this closed, you're not gonna have air purging out as you transition from the bag to your mouth or from the bag to the K-pump. So what we're gonna do, now that we understand the back of that valve, is we're gonna close this up. We're gonna make sure it's seated nice and tight. We're gonna put this valve into the Backcheck mode. We're gonna come and grab this inflation bag. So this inflation bag's really simple. It's just a hole right through with a rubber gasket. This can actually be taken apart, and these parts and components can be replaced. So we take this here and we just screw it on like that, and then we begin inflation. So it has two aluminum stays here, rigidity built into the top of the bag, and what we're going to want to do is we want to grab bags full of air. It's a still morning, so we don't have to catch wind, but you can do that as well. You want to make sure that there's not a twist in the bottom of the bag, because then when you go to push air into the boat, you can put a lot of pressure and a lot of stress on these seams. So we're gonna grab this thing, we're gonna make sure it's untwisted, we're gonna look down inside the bag and make sure we can see the valve. Give it a bit of a shake, and you're only gonna pull it up to about 3/4 instead of all the way up. You can see the bottom portion of the bag really does force the air out, which is not what you wanna do. So I come up to about 3/4. Now, here's a bit more of an advanced inflation technique, but rather than holding the bag like this, I hold it like this so that I can transition really quickly to one hand, choke down underneath, and give it just a half a twist, just a one wrist twist. Because then when I push down, I know when I'm done that inflation, I untwist it just once and I start again, and I'm not having to rethink that process every time. I'll show you how that looks when it's all sped up. Here, full bag in your lap, and that's an entire full bag of air. Now, one of the other things we want to talk about is how you squeeze it. So it's sitting on top of my lap here, and my arm's pulling on the inside. So what we're looking to do here is make sure that we're getting a full bag of air, as we are, and that we're getting all the air out of the bag. So when I'm pulling here, I'm thinking about a couple of things. We're going like this. If we were to just push down like a lot of people do, it's really awkward. You're trying to squeeze the air out of this bag, you're trying to push down, and you're never gonna get that last half of the bag out. It's really awkward. So again, we look here, we grab a bag of air, we put it on top of our lap, right against our chest, we pull in with this hand, squeeze with our thighs just a little bit on the bottom of the bag, and this hand that's grabbing that twist and holding the air from purging out the top, that's pushing down from above, and it's just pushing down. You can see how quickly this boat here inflated. It's really simple. So before we transition to a top-up mechanism, we're just gonna go until we can't get any more air in, but we're not stressing the seams too much, and that's about topped off pressure. Now, what you would do here at this point, if you were inflating it with your mouth for your top-up to get it as rigid as possible, and if you come in nice and close here, Kenny, you can hear the Backcheck valve engage when my lips pull away from it. When you blow in, you'll hear the Backcheck valve push. So that Backcheck valve is engaging. I can feel a little whisper of air here, and some people are concerned by that. It's not a problem because this is actually, the rubber gasket in here is actually your seal at the end. So if this is bleeding a little bit, you don't need to worry. There's also a second rubber gasket in the standard Alpacka repair kit that comes with the boat. You can also buy them if you ever lose it. But today we're actually going to show you a top-up technique for whitewater. So here we're going to put that bag back on because we're not going to top it up with our mouths. We're going to top it up with the K-pump today. And that's going to get us from what we could achieve with our mouths is a maximum PSI of about 1.5 PSI, maybe 2 PSI if we're really pursing our lips till the point where our cheeks hurt blowing air into the boat. But this is the K-Pump Mini. Comes in right at £1. Really light, really simple. These are all made in the US, made in Oregon. And they come with a series of different rubber valves. So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna partner it with this little feature here. And this basically is a backcheck valve. So we blow air through it this way and it won't allow air back here. And when it reaches 2.5 PSI or 3 PSI, it has a 0.5 PSI variability. This little bleeder valve will bleed. So it won't allow us to overinflate the boat, which is really what we want. So here we engage that, we engage this, and what I'm using is I'm using the small valve that comes with the K-Pump Mini, and I'm using the larger valve that actually comes with the K-Pump. And you can play around with what system you think works best. For me, I believe the small valve works best on the boat, in the back of the inflation bag. Rolled over here is best because of the way that this seals. This one here just puts on there and seals into this, okay? And now this is a very, very like low pressure system in general. As I'm sure you are aware, you know, bike tires, car tires, you're running at like 25, 30, 40, 50 PSI for like up to a road biking tire for a road bike. So there's almost no pressure with this K-pump here. And it's a really simple system. One of the things you want to think about is you want to just jostle this little bleeder every once in a while, just to make sure that it's not sticking and that you're not potentially going to overinflate your boat. So we're just doing this here, and you can already see the boat start to take form, start to fill out and smooth out. And that's where the design here, the performance of like the rocker and the bow, this elongated stern with the bulging that helps your tracking in the water, all those things are heightened when it's at its full performance rigidity. So if you're paddling long distances on flat water, the K-pump makes a big difference. If you're paddling big white water and you don't want your boat to flex at all, makes a big difference. Or if you're carrying heavy loads and you're strapping things to the bow, those kinds of things. So this system here works great. And you can take this boat from bottom to top once you get the hang of the inflation bag and the K-pump in less than 5 minutes, in my opinion. And here we're getting close. I'm just gonna make sure we're not gonna overinflate it. I can feel the rigidity building a little bit here in the back of the K-pump. It's still very easy to plunge, but now it's not a one finger, it's a palm plunge. You're starting to hear that drum tight, and we're just gonna continue to work on that bleeder valve, and you can hear that now. So if you come in nice and close, Kenny, you can hear this bleeder valve, and you can hear a little hissing, and that's that bleeder valve right now. You can hear it kind of luffing, and that's that bleeder valve making sure we don't overinflate this boat today. And right now, this boat is gonna run at super high performance. So what you can do is you can either take it right through to what we did now and temper the boat, put it in the water, splash it down. You can take a look at our other videos to figure out how to temper your boat. Or what you can do is you could have done that at an earlier phase, got it partially pumped up, tempered your boat, and then top it up just once before you get in the river. But we're gonna go temper this boat. Afterwards, we're gonna give it one last top up to make sure our performance is as high as we can get it for the right whitewater run we're about to do below us here. And then we're gonna jump in the river.